Happy Saturday. So I've been investigating some of the great ideas out there of happiness and moving forward in life and creating that life that we all want in our minds that is happy, abundant, and possesses the right energy and the right people in our lives. And the main thing that was brought up quite often was the fact that in our time right now, so many people are getting good at the wrong thing, or they're in these careers that don't resonate with who they are. And what one of the individuals, one of the researchers said was, like, what were you doing when you were 14, 15 years old? What brought you joy back then? What did you do? Ask your parents, what did you do when you were around that 6, 7 year old age? If you don't remember, like, what were the, types of toys you were playing with, or the types of shows you were watching, or whatever, because that can unlock what your natural tendencies are, what naturally you gravitate to, these things that bring you joy. Because, I mean, heck, I've been there myself. I've had jobs where, the money's awesome and the people are awesome, but there was always that anxiety inside and that feeling of, am I not living up to my potential? See, that's another big one, is the potential. If you're in this field because of money, you may not reach your full potential. And I think they were saying, like, Munger or one of these guys was saying, and he's, older, one of the things that you'll regret when you get older is if you didn't maximize your potential. Well, when you get older, I'm sure you're looking back and you're thinking, well, I could have done this, I could have done that. See, that's what we need to be doing, like, right now. We need to be evaluating those ideas in our head right now. That's the reason why I always talk about the thinking on paper. That, what am I doing in my life that makes me happy right now? What am I doing in my life that makes me unhappy right now? And or really taking that time to walk and think, acutely about what it is that isn't happening right now that could be happening in your life that will increase the joy in your life, the happiness in your life. Because, like I said, I agree with those researchers. The big one is these jobs. People are doing these jobs because they have to survive. And survival doesn't mean that you're fulfilling your potential. It means that you're surviving. It means that you're taking all that energy and giving it to a job, or some of it's even business sometimes. People are in business doing things that don't necessarily bring them joy. It's definitely something to look at, because we're not getting younger, and especially if you're raising, children, are you going to raise your children to chase money, or are you going to raise your children to actually be happy people? I see my kid, and he likes the construction and all these type of things, and and sometimes I think, man, I got hurt doing physical jobs, so I don't want you to be a construction worker. I'm like thinking, man, let's be an engineer, or let's be a builder or architect, something like that that's going to protect him. But that may not be what his passion is. So one day I may have to face, that reality of, hey, I may not want my kid to be a construction worker, but I mean, if that's what's going to bring him joy, then, I'm most likely going to have to back him. So, there's just a few ideas around that topic. Like I said before, think on paper if you need to think, take a walk if you need to think. I go freeboard. I don't take anything with me a lot of the time unless it's, motivational, information, audio books, or I'm just out there riding and I just think, I just, when I can, when I'm not worried about falling, I'm thinking about things that are going on in my life, because things seem to bubble up when you don't have all this outside influence. And for me, I can't speak for you. For me, a lot of the great information bubbles up out of me when I'm doing something that's, an adrenaline rush kind of thing. But that's me. That's personal. So I can't speak for you. Your thing may be knitting a blanket. I don't know. So happy Saturday.